Hi, welcome to Sacred Enzyme. I'm Stacy. I hope you're doing well today. So this video, I want to review the Jesuses that I've mentioned a few times and not really elaborated on, that have filtered their way through and been morphed around and turned into what we know today as the Bible. So we actually had three different Jesuses. Okay, so I've talked about Jesus number 9 and Jesus number 12. So I'll just give you a background on basically what the whole thing with Jesus is about. Okay, so we've talked about how these stargates, there's 12 stargates, and there's 12 strands of DNA. Okay, and basically we are angelic humans that are in this material realm that are trying to pick up small increments of the original DNA strand pattern that was separated out into smaller increments and given to different groups in the planet, the 12 tribes. This is basically polarized DNA strands that all back together merged back us all back to source. And so this is what the whole name of the game is, except we've forgotten because our bicameral mind was fractured when we had the Luciferian rebellion and we had Atlantis fall. I mean, it just screwed everything up. The whole grid was taken over. So I'm going to talk about Jeshua 12, a little bit about, in my next video, I'll talk about John the Baptist, and we'll talk about more about Mary. But I'll give you just the basic rundowns. So basically what this is all about is the Emerald Covenant. And this is about restoring the original 12-strand DNA template blueprint. So the souls that are on this planet can ascend out, because our codes have been back looping, because the frequencies can't come through on Stargate 12, because that frequency was blocked at 11. So basically you have a reverse frequency happening instead of the frequency codes coming through, because we're a biological computer. Let's not forget, we're a biological computer. We are basically just a computer in a meat suit. And our blood is programs. Everything in our body is programs. Okay? So you have to think of us just like a computer. So what's happened over time is we've been given malware, and we've been given bugs, and and our computer system has been hacked. Okay? So what we have to do is we have to be able to basically run a cleanup on our computer, reactivate our codes that say, like, you know, when apps get taken off of your phone and you have to reinstall them, it's kind of like the same process here. We're basically running a antivirus. We got to get rid of all of the viruses that we have. Then we have to run some programming. We have to get all of our apps reloaded so we can get our 12 apps back on in our computer, reactivated. And, you know, we have to set up a firewall so we're not being hacked anymore. So this is the whole name of the game. Whole name of the game. But we've been hacked. Our systems are all running all crazy. So we have this Emerald Covenant Grail Quest mission. And what has happened is that we have to secure Earth's Stargate 11 from Anunnaki and Draconian race infiltration. Basically, we have the Jehovian Anunnaki races, and we have the Luciferian Anunnaki races, and the Anu Melchizedek Illuminati descendants. They're looking for the Ark of the Covenant, and the Ark of the Covenant is basically that gold box, but it also goes with these two tools, and this is a rod and a staff. And, you know, the whole Excalibur sword of King Arthur. This is a wash and repeat of the same group of characters. We've got John, Mary, and Jesus 12. And it's the same group of characters in the King Arthur. They were running round tables, which is basically trying to run these codes to fix the problems that were with Stargate 11 so these people could ascend up out of here. So, Stargate 11 is in Wiltshire, UK, which is where Stonehenge is. And supposedly was moved in place by Merlin, right? And they're trying to implode Universal Stargate 12. And the whole name of the game was started in the year 2000. Because, like I talked in the last video, is that our particle and our anti-particle Earth flip every 4,000 something years. And we're in an ascension cycle right now, 2000. And if it hadn't probably been for intervention from our founder races, we would have already had a pole shift. Okay. The stellar activation cycle, that's what it's all about. So this plan has been known since the 25,500 BC Luciferian rebellion. That this has been the long game. The long game. So this last seeding, the creator races, what they decided to do, they were going to break down our 12-strand DNA pattern into 12 smaller groups, okay? And then they were going to be polarized, so they would just kind of like, you know, the yin and the yang and the male and the female. It was going to be polarized, so basically you're going to have to work it all out to bring it all back together. So yeah, it was kind of like an experiment at the same time. And I think that it kind of went awry. So anyway, 2,250 years ago, Jesus comes into the scene, okay? And, you know, all of the gene codes have been messed up because the spiritual part of the being has been diluted by the animal part. And this is where you have all of these ET races that have lost their contact with Creator from interbreeding and hybridization. And so this is what's happened to us, and this is why a lot of people only have access to so many codes. And then you have other people that are like these indigo kids that are born with like so many active strands of DNA that they can't even communicate. They're locked up. And so this is why detoxing and diet and all this stuff is super important. And grounding, and even, if they, you could give them visual aids to help open their block seals that they have inside, and give them their shields, because these kids are already tuned in. So, having them, color the Maharic shield, give them some crayons, and just looking at the shape of the Maharic shield, it'll stimulate subconscious things, and these kids are highly advanced. So anyway, you got Jesus 12 coming to bring back 12 strands. So Jesus was number 12. He was called Jesus 12 because he had 12 active strands. He was born to the blue flame Melchizedek, Hebrew, Essene, and his mother's name was Judy, Jeudi. Now, his dad was a blue flame Melchizedek Hebiru cloister Essene, and his name was Johesus, which is interesting because Lorna Byrne talks about an angelic being that comes and talks to her name, Hosis. So I just kind of thought that was interesting. So it's like Jehosis. So they were both leaders of the blue flame Melchizedek Essene sect, and the interesting thing is that there's parallels with the biblical story of Joseph and Mary. They say that Mary was raised in the temple. Well, that's true, that she was raised in the temple by the priest of Ur, and she was basically a breeder. And you know, this is how they did, because they were trying to keep these gene codes, because this was like, you weren't going to get off the planet if you didn't keep these 12 strands. So the avatar that Jesus number 12 was called Sananda, Sananda. So he was named Yeshua, Jeshua, Sananda Melchizedek, and he was also known as Jesus number 12. And then this was the character that was morphed into the Jesus, Mary, Joseph story. So the interesting thing about it is that this Jesus number 12, he comes from King Solomon, real King Solomon. King Solomon, and I think it's Bathsheba, is where this Jesus number 12. So this could explain why Solomon was able to control the demons and do all this stuff with his special ring, because he had active DNA strands that other people didn't. So he knew how to manipulate the morphinogenic field, pretty much, you know. And Solomon was sun and moon together, right? So that's the 12 strands all brought back together, right? Yes. That's exactly what it means. So, I mean, I thought it was pretty interesting. So then, you know, the priest of Ur had arranged the birth of Jesus number 12 through the Melchizedek, the blue flame Melchizedek. So then, you know, Jesus number 12, he... interestingly enough, he wasn't the one that was married to Mary Magdalene, okay? He was actually, through sacred sex in the temple, his seed was given to 6 women, and they were different sub-races of Melchizedek's. And these 6 women, out of the 6 women, 5 of the children survived until adulthood. And there is various lineages of Jesus number 12 spread out through the world, in the United States, continental United States, the French aristocracy, Celtic lines, African lines, Egyptian gene lines. So very few of Jesus number 12's teachings actually made it into the Bible. But he was truly here for the savior of humankind, mankind, and that was, he was bringing back the 12-strand DNA blueprint. So then we get to Jesus number 9, and his name was Jeshua, Jeshewa. His mother was, what came from the Jehovian Anunnaki line. This was the original creator. Now, she came from the original creator of the Assyrian Anunnaki races of Harmonic Universe number 2. Okay, so Mary, she was also she was half bred with Nephilim. So she was half Nephilim. So Jesus number 9's mother was Anunnaki. She was Nephilim. So the interesting thing about that is that Jesus number 9, he was actually the one that got married to Mary Magdalene. But Mary Magdalene was supposed to be paired up with Jesus number 12. And the reason I say that is because Jesus number 12 was her twin flame, her identical half. And so you're supposed to bring all of the parts of you back together to merge. So this is a whole ascension process is about, is your whole soul collective family is merging. And so she was actually the counterpart to Yeshua 12. But by the time she had her awakening, there were some overlays that had been done on her, apparently, because she was part Nephite. And these were called Benjaminite women. And it was because these women were these temple women, and they had more active DNA strands. So she had Nephilim genetics. And I've been suspecting that that's where the family line of mine comes in, is this Nephilim genetics. And I think this is where these RH bloodlines come in, is through Mary Magdalene, the Benjaminite. So her and Jesus number 9, they actually had 3 kids, and he ended up going to Tibet, is the way that I understand it. And because he only had 9 active strands, he couldn't ascend on his own through the 10th Stargate. So he had help from the Elohim. So between 8 and 21 BC, Jesus 12, he traveled to Egypt, Nubia, Jerusalem, and he was doing the ascension teachings. And then we had the 3rd Jesus, okay? And his name was Arahabi. And he was in Hebrew, Anunnaki, Melchizedek. And what happened to him was he was given a holographic overlays by the Elohim, and so these were artificial memories. They gave him artificial memories, holographic, just like MK Ultra stuff. And they had him believing that he was actually Jesus. And so, Jesus number 9, he was a little more public with some of the stuff he was doing, because he was in the mystery schools, and they were all doing sex magic. And see, all this stuff was about bringing these DNA codes down. And we look at this stuff now like, there's just no way that anybody in their right mind would be doing some of this stuff. But, Jesus number 9, he had corrupted hardware, malware in his system, because he was only on 9 strands. He only had a 9 DNA template, and it's supposed to be 12. So he was only activated to 9. So this is why you had some of the things that came out with Jesus, and he's starting to get the authorities riled up, and so they were, he had to get out of town. So in comes 3rd Jesus. So 3rd Jesus was Arahabi, and he was given the holographic overlays. And so he basically was told that if he, if he took the fall for Jesus, basically that, he would be ascended. So they ascended him to Sirius B after, because he wasn't, I don't think that he was even close to, having the DNA strand codes. But the whole point was that, in the wash, was that Jesus number 9 needed to be paired with Mary Magdalene, because they needed to bring those 2 codes back together into a grail line. And so you had the codes that came through Mary Magdalene, because she was part Nephilim, and then you had the 9-strand pattern through Jesus number 9. And so, potentially, if she, even though that Jesus 12 was her counterpart, if she bringing Nephilim genes back to a 12-strand activated DNA pattern, we might have had giants again. So, and maybe that's some of where these, super tall people come from even now. These are recessive genes carried over because she had Nephilim genetics. So we had Arahabi that took the fall, and so Jesus number 12 was basically our true savior, because he brought back the 12-strand DNA pattern. So, I mean, basically, when it comes down to it, I mean, the Bible's really been twisted, all for manipulation. And, I find it just very interesting. Oh, and the other thing is that Jesus was born on Jesus 12, he was born on 11/22. 11/22. So, I mean, and then, the other thing is that when you have these DNA integrations that are coming through, these codes that are coming through, they come through in stages of your life. Like babies are born with, 2 or 3 active strands, depending on what their lineage is, because now we've got all this interbreeding, and we have these, these genetics, these hybrid genetics that have been introduced to our angelic, 12-strand pattern. So our patterns have been filled with malware, and they've been filled with, we're not running right. Our electrical system's completely not running right. We've got our apps are offloaded, and then there's things that are being morphogenically manipulated. Because if you can manipulate the morphogenic field, you can manipulate how all of this works, how all this looks. The morphogenic field is what makes sure that you don't have feet for hands and hands for feet, that everything goes right into the right places. Well, get this. Okay, so if your DNA, it controls your morphogenic field, giants used to have 6 fingers, 6 toes, and 2 rows of teeth, right? Well, the reason that was because they had angelic DNA. And so they had energy centers that, in their Cathara grid, in their Cathara, Cathars, in their Cathara grid, that was like the stigmatas on the crucified Jesus. You know how you had the nail holes in the hands and feet? Those used to be phantom fingers. These were fingers in old times. This is why Spider-Man shoots the web like this. Energy meridian coming out of here, pointing the finger like a wand out of this finger. And see, and the other thing is that there used to be another thumb that was right here in this missing spot that we have on our hand. It looks like something should belong there, doesn't it? If you're going to have a shape. But I mean, yeah, this was an energy center. So basically what the whole stigmata thing of Jesus being on the cross, it was just showing that they were ending, that they're severing that 12 strand. Because, Jesus 12, he did do a lot of miracles and stuff. And, because he's activated all 12 strands, so he's working directly from source. Can you imagine how it would be working directly from source? I mean, wow. That'd be incredible. Incredible. It'd be like Tartaria all over again. So anyway, I found that pretty fascinating, and I hope that you did too. So, we've got all kind of Jesuses. And, there was it was all about genetics. It was all about genetics, just like you have this stuff going on today, where these Proto-Hebrew bloodlines that, I think part of them are left over Atlantis and, from Lohas, and I think other of them are Hyperborean. But, you had the Irish people that, have long been targets of oppression for many, many years, and now it's really starting to make so much sense why they would, that they were putting so many people in slavery, is because they want their genetic codes, and they couldn't get the Africans out of Africa because they were too slick. So they just took them. Out of there, And then they convinced, and none of these people knew anybody else's language. So they just told them whatever they wanted them to know, right? And then, look at how these people came here and they tried to brainwash them with the religion. They did that to the Irish and to the Africans, was trying to force a religion on them. They burn up all the women for being witches, because the women's bodies, because they have a womb, that they were able to carry forth more of the psychic genetics that come with the 12-strand DNA. They were able to have more cell memories. And so this is why we had a lot of women that were healers and earth witches. And this is why they all got burned at the stake. It's because they were just trying to get rid of their DNA. Pretty much, because a dumb society is a pliable and manageable one. So with that, I'd like to hear what you have to say about that. And, it's really interesting how so many more people are starting to have these, they're starting to see things. So I think that, because of this ascension cycle that we've been in, I think that we might actually be going into maybe more of a higher harmonic universe, you know. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. So when you come and find me, I'll be here because we're living in the past, present, and the future all at the same time. Don't forget to get outside today. It's starting to warm up. And I'm so glad the sun's coming in my window. It's been so cold today. So make sure that you give thanks to our Heavenly Father and Divine Mother, Mother Earth. And I hope to catch you on the next one. So thanks for watching Sacred Enzyme. Bye-bye.